Chris Lee and Blake Lovell, the Southeastern 14, here to do our mid-season awards for SEC Hoops. Blake, it's been a fun season, going to be a fun second half. Can't wait to get started here. Let's get right into it. Player of the Year. Let's not mess around. It's Brandon Miller, right?
Yeah, and just quickly, we realize this is not like the midway point of the actual full season. Like we're just kind of doing this midway through the SEC portion because it's kind of fun to do, right? Like you just kind of look
Sure.
ahead and so that's kind of just keep that in mind. I realize it's not the actual midpoint of the season; it is the midpoint of conference play. Here is, I think every team to this point has played 9 games, Chris. So yeah, that makes sense. And so yeah, I mean, it's Brandon Miller. I don't know how else to say. I think he is the choice. We kind of talked in a previous video. I think if you're looking at the best candidates to, perhaps wind up getting the actual award at the end of the season, it's Oscar Tshiebwe, it's Colin Castleton, it's Kobe Brown, guys like that. But I think just what Brandon Miller has done to this point, I think he would be the choice. And yeah, I mean, look, he's on. I know it's an individual award, but he's on the best team, and just he has been a big reason why they are the best team. And I mean, he's terrific, right? Like we said, coming the season,
Yeah.
he's a first team All SEC guy. But I mean, look, we knew he'd be good, but he's been something. So yeah, Brandon Miller's my pick to this point in the season.
Yeah, as the resident stats guy, you have rubbed off on me a little bit where I started to de-emphasize those a little bit. You watch him, eye test. I feel like he passes it. He's the guy that you most worry about on a team with a lot of guys that you've got to worry about. But statistically, over at Sports Reference win shares, he's number one in the league in win shares. He's number one in the league in offensive win shares. He is number 9 in player efficiency rating. Kind of harder to be efficient sometimes with the more minutes you play, and he is what 5th in the league in minutes played there too. So I mean, I think that's one of those. If you wanted to argue other guys, I guess you could, but I think that's the one that's the most bulletproof. That's probably a horrible choice of words there, but anyway.
Well, look, and you're not going to discount. You're not going to discount what Tshiebwe's done, right? Because last season, it's like he was just so. I mean, you think about the season he put together last year, and like he's still doing just some ridiculous things. But it's
Yeah.
like when you consider what Brandon Miller has done to this point,
Yeah.
it's just. I mean, it is. It's just so impressive, and like, and you point this out in another video. It's like in another year, it's like Kobe Brown's probably the guy. Like, I mean, really, if
Or
it's like Kobe
Castleton.
Brown or Castleton, like either one of these two guys. And I think, you could probably take your pick of a Tennessee player too and maybe put them in the category. But it's like, it's just Brandon Miller's done what he's done, and it's something. So,
Yeah, had a phenomenal year. Coach of the year. I mean, I think that's easy. That's I say it's easy.
hold
It's
on a
not.
second, Chris. Let's hold on
There's
there.
there's
Just
2
1
that jump
minute.
to the forefront, maybe 3.
Let's hang on 1 second, Chris. It's not that easy. But here, I will tell you my mindset, okay? Coming into this, I had 3 choices. All right. Now, a little recency bias, perhaps, knocked out one of those choices. I was fully ready to make Rick Barnes my pick. I'm not going to lie to you. But they lose, and I've got to rethink that a little bit. Because remember, I had Tennessee as number 1 in my power rankings in the week after Alabama got blown out. And, so we had to rethink things a little bit. But now I think we're down to 2. And I think those 2, to me, are very clear. It's either Nate Oates or it's Dennis Gates. I think it's one of the 2 right now. And you may disagree with that, and you may say, well, A&M and all that. But remember, we are doing this as a mid-season awards for the conference play, but we still have to also encapsulate the entire season. And so I think it's probably Oates right now. I mean, I just don't know how else I could pick probably against that, but I think Dennis Gates, my guy. I'm not just pushing him because he's my client, but I think he absolutely has to be in the discussion. So that's my 2 choices right now.
Well, you heard me self-correct, and I said, well, I think there's 2. The 2 that you mentioned are the 2 that I had in mind, and when I said maybe 3, Barnes would have been my third 2. I think if you want to use this as a separator, right? Barnes has been in Knoxville longer than the other two guys have been where they've been. If you wanted to make the case for Dennis Gates, it would be that Missouri's been pretty mediocre to terrible for a lot of the last decade, and he has brought Missouri back to relevancy like that. Oates last year, they had issues defending. He has fixed that in 1 year with flying colors. Offensively, they're an outstanding basketball team. They're on the number one seed line. I guess if you want to break ties by going to who is the best team, then obviously Nate Oates would be your choice. But it's however you want to. It's really, Coach of the Year is just kind of a weird award anyway. A lot of times, what happens is the guy that is consistently good is the guy that doesn't win it, and the guy that had a horrible year the year before, but rebounds the next year, wins it. In which case, we should just make it the like they have in baseball, the comeback player of the year, the comeback coach of the year. I don't know. The coach of the year is just a weird award for a lot of reasons because it, depending on what chair you're sitting in and what you value, that is usually dictating your choice. But if you want to go with the guy who has done a terrific job of changing the trajectory of a program, especially on the defensive end of the floor, and made his team a national title contender, it seems to me like Nate Oates is the best choice.
Yeah, sometimes we penalize the guys at the top because it's just like, well, either we've seen them there before or just like, well, let's go with the guy who's maybe moved the team from the bottom up further towards the top instead of rewarding, I think, a team that has been as good as Alabama at the top. And so, yeah, I think, look, if you're asking me right now, and remember, we don't get votes in this in the actual SEC awards. But if I had to submit a vote right now, I would vote for Nate Oates. But I'd also probably here's what I do, Chris. I take the Nate Oates pick out of the right pocket and I'd slide it into the ballot box. But as I'm doing that, I'm gonna do like a little decoy action. I'm gonna look this way and I'm gonna drop the Dennis Gates one in there too. So I mean, look at 2 votes. It's fine. There's no recounts here. So yeah.
We should do like a signing day hat ceremony for our final picks.
We should.
Like
I'm gonna wear
you got the Alabama hat and the Missouri hat, and you act like you're gonna pick up one, and then you switch to the other one. And
I'll tell you what trend I'm on here, Chris. And we talked about this in I don't remember what video. Maybe it was the Missouri video we did with Rory. But I'm on the throwback SEC basketball jersey. If you go to eBay, the number, I didn't realize this was a thing. There are so many throwback jerseys for a lot of teams in the SEC that I'm all in on wearing some throwback jersey here. So I will put this out there too. If you're anyone that owns a throwback jersey and you would like to get rid of it, let me know because
we can wear throwback jerseys on the show.
Yes, like I'm all for the throwback jerseys. And again, as you guys know, I'm not afraid to rep any, like, just come on, like just tell me what you got here, and like I will give me a Missouri throwback jersey, give me a Bama throwback jersey. I don't care. There's a lot of fun jerseys on eBay that I did not know existed when I went down this rabbit hole when we had the Missouri discussion. So yeah, I'm all for it.
All right, let's call an audible. Best throwback jersey. I got one in mind. There's some good ones though.
Well, what do we mean by, like, are we talking about ones that someone has worn this year, or just like what of our favorite old jerseys? Like, what are you?
I was thinking worn this year, but you could go another route.
All right, well, what's your pick, and then that'll get me on the right track.
I like the ones Missouri wore the other day.
Yeah, the old Big 8 jerseys. Yeah,
I think the ones, the Tennessees, the orange ones that say Tennessee Volunteers. I guess those their regular jerseys now.
Maybe. You want to know my pick? And you've already ridiculed me for this once. Like,
oh, don't say Kentucky.
The 90s Kentucky jerseys, man.
No,
they're so simple. They're
awful.
No, they're not awful at all.
The 90s were an awful fashion decade, and now, look, we should just.
You're not thinking of the one I'm thinking of. Okay, let me try to see if I can pull this up. Like, I'm talking the clean. I would take either one of these, to be honest with you. So let me see if I can pull this up here. I know you guys are like, we tuned in for midseason awards and look at this rabbit hole we've gone down here. But let me just tell you, Wait, this is another video, by the way. We're gonna do another video on this. All right, so like this is like the
Now
Ron
those I
Mercer. Like,
like.
see, those are the ones that I'm talking about. Like these are
Okay.
the what mid '90s, late '90s Kentucky jerseys here. Like this is the Ron Mercer era one. I want to say this is like the only guy I remember like from this era was either it was either like Jeff Shepard, um,
Jeff Shepard.
Tayshaun
That would
Prince.
have
There you
been
go, Tayshaun
the
Prince.
team
That's the
that
one I was thinking
wanted
of.
it that beat Utah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Those are good. Okay.
I like those. So that's kind of what I'm thinking here. So
Yeah,
just
I
to
thought you meant the like the early to mid '90s
well, I know they
that
wore
they're
those,
wearing a
but
lot lately.
I prefer
I hate
these
those.
over one. Well, I'm just
I
saying.
can go with you
So
there.
we're gonna have to make this another. This is gonna be another video soon. I'm just telling you. Like I'm too far down this rabbit hole. But let's get back on track here.
Well, I was gonna say one more honorable mention. I don't know that I like them because I'm not a big fan of just black and white, especially if black is not one of your colors. The Fighting Texas Aggies have been an interesting look of late.
That's yeah. I noticed that one too. That's yeah. It's a good choice.
Okay.
All right.
We'll kick the
What were we
faction
talking
police
about? I don't know
out.
what we were talking about here.
look what I've
Good
done.
grief.
Defensive player of the year. You and I talked, and we did not really compare notes. We're kind of doing this on the fly, which I think makes it a little bit more interesting. Of course, we pay a lot of attention, so we've already done a lot of prep work in our heads. But defensive player of the year, is it fair to say it probably comes down to Colin Castleton or Zakai Ziegler?
It's a two-man race for me right now. It's
Okay.
one of those two. I think they're pretty even, to be honest with you, because it's like, it's also a matter of like just impact. I mean, Castleton's blocking more shots, Ziegler's getting more steals, like, those kind of things. I think right now I would take Zakai Ziegler.
Okay.
Because I think too, like we said, it's the eye test is part of it. And you're just talking about just pure defender, and look, Castleton's the same way. I mean, Castleton impacts the game in such a huge way, but I don't think you can go wrong with either choice. I'll say that. I'll pick Ziegler, but you can't go wrong either way.
I tend to lean more towards big men.
That's
because
fine.
it feels like they just do things that you can't quantify. Like when you see guys missing layups,
just being
when
on
a
the
shot's
court
not blocked.
is
no. If you want to make the case, it does work the other way. Or like if you got a guard that just gets up in your face and disrupts everything you're trying to do to get the ball inside or
can't run your
wherever.
offense. Yeah,
right. I'll tell you why I lean towards Castleton because I think Ziegler's got a little more help. I mean, Tennessee's just full of good, and maybe that's not fair. I mean, you could go
be in the conversation too, right? So it's
yes, thank you. That's where I was going to go. But I mean, you could 1A and 1B this, and or 1A, 1B, 1C, and I don't know that you wouldn't be off by far on any of those. I'm not. I don't think either's really sure who the right choice is, but those I think are your options.
Yep.
Most underrated player, man. I've got.
Ooh. This is exciting.
I got a bunch of guys in mind. I
mean,
hear
look,
yours first.
These aren't traditional awards, right? We're trying to have fun here. But I mean, again, underrated isn't just in terms of like how you view that word, right? Like it's not, and I know you're like, well, it's the definition, but it's sort of in the context of, because like there may be some guy we say is underrated, like, well, I hear about this guy all the time, but it's like, it's those kind of things. You're like, this is not a science. One I think we definitely have to throw in the conversation for me is Olivier Kamwa. I think he's got to be in there because I think he's had a really good season. And, that does kind of go beyond just the scoring aspect. He's a good rebounder for them. He's someone else, as I said in a previous video, like he can block shots. I think he's one that I would probably throw in that category. Here's what we're just going to bounce back and forth because if I just keep going, I mean, Tyrese Radford is someone else that I don't think gets enough love. I think the fact
Wade
that
Taylor.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that A&M has come on the way they have, I think now we're starting to kind of get there in terms of Radford getting, the kind of love he needs, I think, to sort of support being in this conversation. All right, you can start naming some guys. I've got some more, but I don't want to take up.
I mean, I'm not kidding. I probably got 10, and you can do them for different reasons. Well, and I'm just gonna throw these out at you, and I think maybe between the two of us we'll figure something out. Okay. What is the stat that I always say I think is the most underrated thing in basketball?
Minutes played.
Minutes played.
Mm.
Ricky Council leading the league in minutes played.
I don't view
He's
Ricky Council as underrated. I think he is like,
well,
but again,
yeah,
that's right. But that's just me. But like you, I don't think this is science. So I'm not saying I
right.
discount the pick. I'm just saying I would have already thought he would be above that. But
Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use this to throw a lot of options on the table. Right.
no, that's fine.
If you want to go with guy who carries his team on a bad team, I think KJ Williams is in the discussion. If you want to go, you mentioned the A&M round. I think Radford and oh, good grief,
Taylor.
We don't. I don't know that we talk about them enough on this show. I think those are two options. Kamwa is one that I had in mind. Mark's. I don't know that you can call Mark Sears underrated, but Miller gets a lot of the credit for Alabama. Sears has been right there. And here's another one. And this might be where I settle, but you could also knock this one for reasons that I will bring up because I think this guy's underrated by his own coach. And that's Liam Robbins too. Now,
Yeah.
he's hurt a lot. And his coach doesn't, for whatever reason, start him. But do you know who number one in the league in player efficiency rating is? It's
Would
Liam
that
Robbins,
be Liam Robbins?
Vandy. Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Just ahead of Oscar Sheboy and Kobe Brown.
All right.
But now the problem with Robbins is there's always an injury, and he just came off missing 4 games. But I think he was leading the conference in blocks till he got hurt on a really bad defensive team.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, average to bad, but anyway, they slipped a lot when he was gone too.
It's a tough choice for me. I could honestly go one of like 3 A&M players and probably be fine with my pick. But and again, it's like, for Kamwa, Tennessee fans know he's not underrated at this point. I would probably narrow my list to Kamwa, Tyrese Radford, or
KJ Williams.
Is Wendell Green still underrated? Like in terms of
No.
Okay, I'm just curious. Like I think sometimes, again, I always say this. Like we knock Auburn. We're a little hard on Auburn sometimes and their guards and the consistency, but I just want to make sure Wendell Green's getting his love. So
Matt Morrell would be another guy in the Liam Robbins category. Hurt guy on a bad team that makes a big difference when he's there.
Yeah, I don't think you can. I just don't think you can.
We've also left Toulouse Smith maybe too.
I don't know if I consider him underrated anymore. Like I think he's been one of the best players, one of the best big men in the league for 2 years running now. Or I don't remember how long he's been there. He's been there forever. It's a tough one because we're gonna go so many different ways with this, but I'll go Tyrese Radford. He's my choice.
Okay. I mean, I don't.
And I don't even know if he's underrated, to be honest with you. Like, I really don't at this point. I mean, the guy has multiple 30-point games, 20-point games. Like, surely he's not. But if you're still kind of knocking A&M for what they did in the first month of the season or month and a half, it's time to get on the Tyrese Radford bandwagon. So
I was leaning KJ Williams, but this is like coach of the year. It's like, where do you set the bar for stuff? So
pick your favorite player that doesn't get enough love. That's what this award is. That's all it is. So
biggest surprise.
And this can be a positive or negative surprise, right?
Okay, like, I got mine.
It's just a surprise. So you go first. I'll tell you mine after this.
Kentucky being a bubble NCAA tournament team when we thought they might be the best team in the country. I think that's easy.
Yeah, I think that would be mine. Just Kentucky being where they are right now, given the expectations coming into it. I think it's got to be that, and I think it's just that Kentucky has not been able to win enough big games at this point. I think that's probably the bigger surprise is that they've not fared as well in big games that you just would have expected with this team. And certainly there have been injuries and all that, but we know this is like a deeper thing with just how they played and the consistency level hasn't been there. And yeah, I think that's the biggest surprise for sure to this point. Because like I said, you could say Missouri and all that, but like we are not as surprised by that as some people are. Um, you could say, well, South Carolina being as bad as they are, I don't think that's as shocking for us
No.
as it may be for some people. LSU's maybe would be a little bit, but then again, I go back to our schedule discussion and say, well, we probably should have seen this coming with them, to kind of slide. So it's got to be Kentucky just not being national championship Final Four level based on I think what the expectations were coming into the season. So which I mean, look, it's our biggest surprise, right? But like we're going to do like biggest disappointment. I mean, that's kind of I
Yeah.
will give you another one for biggest disappointment. So
Well, I was going to say if we had done these in a different order, I think we would have just put Kentucky in the biggest disappointment and then just moved on to surprise as a different category. So, however, we want to decide
I've
those
got
two.
I've got my biggest disappointment. And again, this is not I don't mean this is a disappointment in terms of like I'm not blaming this party for that. I'm just saying from a viewer standpoint, this would be my biggest disappointment. And that is Nick Smith not
Oh,
playing
yeah.
the full season for Arkansas. Because again,
Yeah.
we said this to start the year. We're like, I don't think people realize just how big of an impact he's going to make once he's actually on the floor. And the fact that he's only played basically 4 games this season, um, that's disappointing. And I think it's probably the biggest disappointment. Again, if we go beyond the Kentucky thing, um, that may be that's surprising and disappointing. But this one to me is just like, man, if you really just think about it, and you can throw the Trevon Brazil thing in there too, because I think it's
Yeah.
just disappointing to see his season end early, just given how he was playing. But I just think the Nick Smith thing is, I mean, you're talking about again a top pick in the draft, and Arkansas's only had him again for basically 4 games, and that's I think would be my biggest disappointment just for the season. And again, I'm not blaming Nick Smith, and I know that discussion continues to this day about what's going on there and everything, but it's just disappointing for me as a viewer of SEC basketball that we have not been able to see him on the floor for Arkansas for most of the season.
Yeah. I would take all your thoughts there and I'd wrap them into one package and say Arkansas has been a disappointment. Not because Arkansas has been bad. It's for the reasons you said. It's so disappointing not being able to see Arkansas with Brazil and with Nick Smith. You remember how good they looked when Brazil was in there and what a difference he was on the back end. Arkansas was a preseason top 5 team by a lot of people. And we've talked about how Alabama and Tennessee have separated at the top for a while. Hey, would Arkansas with Smith and Brazil have been right up there with him? We just don't know, and that has been the biggest disappointment is not getting to see what that would have looked like.
We did a video after the Creighton game. We said Arkansas is good enough to win it all. Like, just think about how long ago that is now. And yeah, it's just things have just gone a different way. So yeah.
Last one here, bold prediction.
This is
Oh,
the fun one.
you've got
No,
something
I'm
in
just this
mind, I
is the
can
fun
tell.
one. Like for the rest of the season, like you gotta make and look, bold is also, it may not be that bold of a prediction, but we're gonna have to label it bold to make it sound better. So, if there's something you're not gonna go all in on necessarily, maybe, but like something that you're like, I feel really strongly about this. This is my prediction for the rest of the season. Is there something that stands out for you?
I'm looking at schedules here.
And it may not be that bold. Again, it may be, maybe not. I don't know. I mean, because
I,
look, this is an interesting one because it's like you can go a lot of different ways with this. Um,
I got 2 teams in mind, and I don't
all right,
know if I'm
it's a tough one, but it's gonna make you think a little bit. Try to look ahead. Do 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 do.
I mean, I
Got
want to
copyright
say
violation.
something about, Mississippi State or A&M only losing one game the rest of the way. Then I look at A&M's schedule, and you got
Yeah.
Tennessee and Alabama staring you down at
Yeah.
some point. I
Yeah.
think one or two of those is away. You got A&M. That's that. How bold is that? I mean, it got
Come on, that's not bold.
no. That's why I'm bold prediction.
I'm gonna say at least 6 SEC teams make the NCAA tournament.
Oh, that's not where I thought you were going to go, because I've been the one that has been driving that train.
You have. I set
and
my
you've
over
been the
under
one
at like
that's
4.
been trying to derail it all year.
The
What is
net
going
is
on
starting
here?
to support some numbers here, and here's why. Okay, here's why I'm saying this is my bold prediction, and it may be not that bold, but I think it is when you really think about it. I don't know if it is that bold anymore, because here's the thing, Chris. Again, we have to field a tournament. And if you look at the net, the SEC is in a really good spot in the net. And here's the way I'm looking at it now: Alabama, Tennessee, Auburn, Missouri trending all in the right direction. Auburn trending in the right direction. Missouri trending in the right direction. A&M trending in the right direction. Kentucky trending, I think, still in the right direction, despite, losing whatever the game against Kansas. They're still trending there. So, like, even right there, that's 6 teams. But then Arkansas is fighting their way back. I think Arkansas is going to get in. So I told you, I'm a little more optimistic. Now, look, half the league may be an 11 seed or lower, but I'm going to say 6 teams make it. That's my prediction.
I want to say Kentucky getting is a double-digit seed, but then I look and they got so many home games against good teams that you just win a couple, and then then you're playing that 8-9 game instead. Can I do this?
It can be a bad bold prediction. It can be something that's...
Well, I'm probably full of those.
You say South Carolina's not going to win another SEC game. I don't know how bold that would be at this point.
Is that bold?
Yeah. Could say, I don't know, A&M wins the league. Like, that's bold. I don't think it's going to happen. But you could pick someone other than Alabama to win the league. I think that'd be bold no matter who it is.
My creativity has just disappeared.
You've got nothing.
I can't. Florida to make the NCAA tournament, but
the SEC is going to finish somewhere other than last in 3-point percentage. There's bold.
That might be bold at this point. Okay, I got one. Missouri to the Sweet 16.
Oh, well, come on, you can't steal mine. I would have been mine for the postseason awards. I would have made that for the postseason.
Well, then you should have claimed it.
Nah, I'm just kidding.
What is this?
Look at Chris making bold predictions. We don't have a bracket yet. Get out of here.
You
can't make a Sweet 16 pick.
You're just upset that I stole something involving Dennis Gates before you could pick it.
I should have did a little pandering. I should have did that one.
It's your own fault.
No, we said another video. They're the kind of team that can get there. But I got to see a bracket first before I start making any Sweet 16 projections. So
I'm so boring. I couldn't get why. Like, I sat there and I just blanked.
It's a bad choice.
Everything I thought of was just vanilla.
It's fine. Anything else we want to throw out here before we wrap up? This thing went off the rails quick, but what do you expect with us at this point?
I feel like we've now boxed ourselves into some kind of a uniform podcast.
Oh, we're doing a uniform because it's going to get talked about in the comments, I guarantee you. So we're going to have to do something on the best throwback uniforms in eBay. Here, how about this? If you want to support the channel so we can buy some of these very expensive throwback uniforms on eBay, you can hit that donate button. You hit that little $sign down there. It just allows you to donate to the channel, super chats, all that stuff. We appreciate everybody out there. You can join It Just Means More tier. That's for our members who are just basically supporting the show on a monthly basis. Gives us a couple dollars to go towards the throwback jersey fund at this point. We've changed our funds a lot in terms of where these funds are going.
I feel like we need to come up with some sort of rules or format to, like, if you miss badly on our prediction, then you have to wear the team's jersey.
Maybe
the next. I don't know. There's got to be something there.
we'll make it work. But throwback jersey conversation's coming, so you guys get your thoughts ready, and we're gonna do like a visual representation of that too. So, yeah, like we're gonna bring out all the choices, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. So hit that subscribe button.
Yeah, that was fun. Even when we blanked.
Believe it or not, some shows are better than
We
this
being
one.
me.
So
Right.
believe it or not, this is probably not our worst show we've ever done, but it's in there. So
It's in there.
yeah.
Well, thanks for watching anyway. And in spite of us, if you liked it, hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. That helps us. We got a ton of stuff coming up. Baseball content, football content. We're here for all that. Hit that subscribe button. Tell a friend. He's Blake Lovell. I'm Chris Lee. We're Southeastern 14. We'll see you again soon.